Before we do that, I want to talk about John Campbell and his small groups. John Campbell, at the time, he was, I think, a professor at King's College here at the University of Western Ontario. And he ran a one-week course for facilitators, usually at St. Andrews by the Sea, over many years. I think he had 20 or 22 people in this course regularly. They, he used the same techniques, as it says here, and these people went through the same set of states of behavior in each course. He did this empirically. He did this by developing the technique. And David will explain exactly how our theory fits that situation. And here's the transition. When people arrive at the start of the week from order, of course we're in order. They're in their communities, their families. And he moves the group into chaos. The group becomes chaotic. People, ideas flit around, there's no focus, etc. And then he changes it until it's into the complex state, and finally back to order, so they'll be ready to go home. I'll spend a little more detail on that. So people arrive, as I said, and the participants are asked to bring a number of materials. They're asked to answer about 125 questions, to bring a token that represents, they think would represent them, to bring any personal materials, such as writings or musical instruments or paintings or poems or whatever they're into. And John begins and introduces a number of exercises, such as, let's discuss the best learning environment. He has a bunch of these exercises. They're dynamic, they're interactive, people are talking back and forth, and it's kind of fun, but nothing's happening. He hasn't stood up like they expected and said, you know, the purpose of this meeting is to do such and such, and we're going to do such and such. He hasn't said anything. He's just done this interaction. And people are getting uncomfortable, in fact, very uncomfortable. And what you find, according to him, is the subject flits around as they have these discussions, and people are looking for some focus. This is chaos. John kept very detailed notes of these groups, and he got a lot of feedback from people who attended, and a great deal of this. But this session could be summed up by the fellow that wrote, I thought I was here and I was going to waste a week. That's about what everybody thought they were at that point. From chaos to complexity, then, is the next step. And of course, here is where we see the emergence of a creative group. And he does this by introducing some rules and guidelines. He forms small groups. He gives them something to work on. And what they work on is our wants. What do we want to get done? They gather back together. They review these wants. Individuals talk about themselves, where they're from, what they do. They introduce those musical instruments or whatever they brought with them. People really get to know each other very well. And they move into a complex state. And in such an environment, it emerges what we call in the zone. And at least in our experience in sports, for example, sports writers use the word in the zone, which is to say, you know, maybe this is Tiger Woods yesterday if you follow golf, but the golfer feels that he can't hit a bad shot. Everything goes his way. Or the team, the person is always there, the pass is there, it all works. And I'm sure you've been in meetings where, you know, suddenly there seemed to be a generation of a feeling that we're really going somewhere, and everybody was participating and honoring each other's thoughts. The comments on this are quite interesting. I'll read just a couple. Time did not exist. Time flew by before I realized that the day was over. We became a group with a common purpose. I was very relaxed, as if I'd known these people all my life. I connected with opposites. This class lulled me into a magical environment, and yes, there were times when I felt we were all tapped into a special place. So it was a great creative experience for the people that took place after going through chaos and into complexity. But they all have to go home. So John provided a toolkit and other handouts which they discussed about, now they've had this great experience and they are going back, and the people back where they're going did not have this experience, so you have to understand how you're going to introduce it, and you have to understand what's going to happen. Importantly, John moved the group through a cycle of different discrete system states, from order to order. The same states as we find in studying abstract discrete systems. Again, David will discuss how this happens. Before I sit down, I just want to talk for a minute about fractals, because we use this word, and for those of you who are familiar with it, fine, but maybe some aren't. We use this word in particular in talking about cycles. And a fractal is a geometric structure that, when you look at it, you can't tell the scale. You can't tell the order of magnitude. Now, if you think of a stock market trace, nobody tells you what's written around the bottom as to the date, whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year. You can't tell the difference. They all look similar. And the same thing is, if I show you a tree without the trunk, just the branches going out like that without the leaves, you can't tell, if I focus in on any part of that, what part of the tree I'm looking at. You can also derive mathematical fractals. So we're going to talk about that. It's scalable. The essence is it's scalable. I've written at the bottom here, perhaps not so pertinent, the other part of finding a fractal is that its dimension is not what you expect. In other words, you have a line, a wiggly line, and you think in a normal course event that line would have dimension 1. An area would have dimension 2. A volume has dimension 3. Exactly. And that's the way it is with everything in this room, as everything inanimate in this room. But in fractals, that's not the case. They have, as they say, non-integer dimensions. So I'll give you an example. If you're measuring the coastline of Britain, this is the classical example used by Benoit Mandelbrot, who coined the word fractal. You have a measuring stick and you go around, let's say the measuring stick is, for measuring the coast of Britain, it's 500 yards. And then you use another one that's 1,000 yards. You'll have a very much longer coastline with the 500 yards than with the 1,000 yards. And with a mile, it'll be shorter, and with a 6-inch ruler, it'll be a very long coastline. The essence of this is the coastline has a dimension, not of 1, even though it's a line, but of 1.26. The essential point we want to leave with you about fractals is that it's scale-free. Cycles occur in social systems. I mentioned John Campbell's group. Madeline and David will be talking about art styles later. It's present in the history of social interactions. It's present in corporate economics, and everybody talks about the economic cycles, business cycles. Those cycles are fractal. That is, the same cycles occur at all levels. And as an example, the behavior of groups within an organization, as it says, let's say a corporation. The corporation itself, the economic social system in which the corporation exists, all are fractal. And the same cycles exist at all levels. Well, that's the story of the 4 states of social systems, and here's David to talk about the next step.